What's up everybody, welcome back. So in the last video we did some preparations for our Team Deathmatch lobby, and in this video we're going to try and wrap everything up. So we actually have quite a lot of work to do, so I'm going to skip the intro this time and we're just going to dive into it. So let's get started. First of all, one small thing I want to mention. In the last video, or actually it was the video before that I think, in the shooter game mode we have the GameMode PvP killed player function, and in here for the newsfeed line I actually set killed by, so we have the killer killed by the victim, and that's a bit weird, so I should have said just killed, so the killer killed the victim. So now that makes a little bit more sense. And now we can actually set up our Team Deathmatch game mode. So first of all, we're going to go into our save data folder, and in here we're going to add something to the player profile structure. Now, one small thing I want to mention, whenever you change things inside of a structure, and especially if it's a little bit of a bigger structure or a structure that's used in a lot of different blueprints and things like that, make sure you have a backup. It can mess up your project. It doesn't happen all the time, obviously, but it can happen. So you just want to make sure you have a backup, and after you edited the structure, just make sure that the project still runs in standalone and that you can still package it if you want to. So with that set up, or with that mentioned, let's go into the player profile, and we're going to add a new variable in here, and that's going to be our TeamID. And that's going to be an integer. So we can save the player profile, and because we made changes in there, we're going to go into our save game for the player profile, and we need to recompile it because right now we do not have default values in here. So let's compile and save it. And because we changed the save game, we're also going to browse to the actual folder on our desktop, and I lost my Explorer window. So let me see, show folder in Explorer, and then we're going to go to our save games folder and just delete the save game. So go to the folder of your project and then saved and then save games, and we're going to get rid of this stuff. And I'm actually in the correct folder, so that should be good. Okay, so we have the save game set up. Now we're going to go to the framework folder, and we're going to add the game mode to our enumeration. So let's open our Enum game mode, and we're going to add a new enumerator, and that's going to be Team Deathmatch. And let's save and close this down as well. And then we can go into our data table, and we can set up the different options that we're going to have for the Team Deathmatch game mode. So let's duplicate the row and let's rename it Team Deathmatch. And we can set up the different options that we're going to have in here. So let's have a little look. So for the match duration, we could increase this a little bit. Let's say we're going to get rid of 3 minutes. So we're going to have a 5 minute, a 10 minute and a 20 minute game. Score limit, we could increase that as well. So let's make sure that we have something like a 10, 25 and 50 maybe. Respawn delay, that should be good. Then we're going to go for the maximum team size. So I'm going to say 2, 3, 4 or 5 players. So I'm going to get rid of the rest. Not this one, but this one. And then for the number of teams, I want to have 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's do 2, 3 and 4. So we have 3 different arrays in here, 2, 3 and 4 teams. There we go. So we have the different options set up as well. Now let's make sure that we save everything, and we can actually start doing some stuff right now. So we're going to go into our lobby menu, go to the widgets folder, widget blueprint lobby menu, and let's take care of the designer first. So we're going to need one extra box in here for the new number of teams options. So let's duplicate one of these horizontal boxes in here. So grab this one, duplicate it, and then for this one I'm going to say the setting is going to be number of teams. And then we need to change the text in here. So that's going to be the number of teams. And we want to make sure that we increase this border. So let's grab the border over here and let's extend it. And then I'm also going to add a checkbox in here to enable or disable the auto assigning of teams for the server. So we can have the players select their own teams, or we can have the server make the teams for us. So I'm going to grab this seamless travel border. And I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go into this vertical box and I'm going to paste it in here. And then I want to drag it above my accept button. So let's grab the border and let's drag it right above the accept button over here. And then we could add a little spacing in here possibly. So what if we align it vertically to the bottom and set it to fill? That looks a bit better. So for the text in here, I'm going to say auto assign teams. And we want to make sure that we change the actual name of the checkbox. So that's going to be checkbox auto assign. And we want to change the border name as well, probably. So let's make this border auto assign. And that should be everything in here. And now we also want to make a few buttons below here for everybody to select their teams. So I'm just going to grab one of these buttons over here, for example. So this has a border and a vertical box. So let's just grab everything. The border with the vertical box and the button. I'm going to copy it. And then go to my canvas panel and paste it. So I'm going to drag it somewhere down here. Then over here for the vertical box, I'm going to right click and then replace it with a horizontal box. And then where did it go? So over here. So we want to change the button and the button name and the text. So this is going to be the button for the first team, for example. So I'm going to say team 1. And then also change the text on the actual button. So that's going to be team 1. And I'm simply going to duplicate this button 3 more times. And make sure that we change all of the text and the variable names. So this is going to be team 2, but we already have that. So let's start with this one. This is going to be team 4. Oh, really? And this is going to be team 3. Oh, come on. And then obviously we have team 2 over here. There we go. So this border needs to be a variable. So let's make sure that we grab the border and actually give it a name. So that's going to be the border team buttons. And then we're going to make it a variable over here. And by default, we're going to set it to hidden. So that should be good as well. And then I think we have the designer part done. So let's compile and save it. And now we're going to go into the graph and set everything up. So first of all, we're going to go into the update game mode options. So let's look for the function update game mode options. So this is the function that will run on the server, and this will set all of the correct options in the game mode options menu. So in the little drop down menus and things like that. So we can select the correct options. So in here we have the new Team Deathmatch enumerator that we need to take care of, and we want to actually hide a bit more or clear a bit more options. So the first thing we're going to do is add our settings maximum team size and setting a number of teams to the clear options. So let's look for those in our variables, setting number of teams and setting maximum team size. So let's connect both of these in here as well. Freaking really. Thank you. And then for the Team Deathmatch, we actually want to hook it up right over here. Let me double check. Yeah, we actually want to hook it up to the data table. So we're going to get the settings from our data table. And then we want to grab one of these for each loops with the setting boxes. So we're going to grab all of this stuff, copy it and paste it down here. And we need to make sure that we set the settings for the number of teams. So we're going to grab our number of teams setting, connect it over here. And then we can plug this into the set selected index from the previous for each loop. And then we want to connect up the arrays to our GameMode options in here. So we actually need to connect this one up to our, let me see, number of teams, and then the other one as well. So that's over here. So we have the for each loop and the length of the array hooked up to the number of teams in the GameMode options structure. And then we want to make sure that when this is completed, so from the set selected index, we're going to hook back up to the apply selected GameMode options over here. So we have this function done and we have the Team Deathmatch GameMode added in here. Then we want to go to the event graph. And over here, first of all, let's take a look at the select GameMode. So if we have the GameMode options button, that should be down here. Seamless travel. Okay, so let's see, button GameMode options, and then I'm going to the on-clicked event. So this one. So we're going to enable all of the borders and the buttons and things that belong in there. But because we have the number of team setting that we only want to display for Team Deathmatch, we're going to make a few changes to the border in here. So let's disconnect it after the setting is enabled. And then we're going to grab our game modes enumerations from the variables. And we're going to get the index. So get a copy from our game mode index. So we're going to switch on the result over here, switch on game mode, plug it in. So if this is a free-for-all or Team Deathmatch, then we want to change the border. And if it's endless wave, we do not have any options to set, so we're not going to mess with that. So let's grab our border for the game mode options. So that's a variable as well. Drag it in here. And we're going to get this slot as a canvas slot. So slot as canvas slot. And if we do this, then we can set the size and things like that. So we can drag off here and we're going to set the size. So if we play free for all, we're going to plug it in and then we're going to set the size to 400 by 300. And if we play Team Deathmatch, we're going to make the border a little bit bigger because we need to add the AutoAssign boolean and the number of team options. So we're going to plug this in. And then we're going to make the border 400 by 350. And then we want to grab our border for the AutoAssign and the horizontal box for the number of teams. So grab the border with the AutoAssign checkbox. Let's move this over. And we want to grab the horizontal box with the number of teams. So we want to make that a variable, and I don't think we did that. So let's go into the designer. And we're going to go to this horizontal box with the number of team settings. So let's make sure we grab the entire box, and we're going to make this a variable. So that's going to be my horizontal box, number of teams. And enable is variable. So then we can go back into the graph and we can drag it in here as well. So we want to set it collapsed if we are playing Team Deathmatch. So we're going to drag off here and set the visibility. And then over here we're going to set collapsed. So make sure we plug in the AutoAssign box and the horizontal box for the number of teams. And then if we play Team Deathmatch, we want to make them visible. So we're going to plug this in here and set the visibility to visible. And plug both of them in here as well. And then we can set the visibility for the actual options border. So plug this back in. So that should be good to go. Then we also want to go to our event construct over here. And if we go all the way to the end, so we have the server select level, and then we create the array for the game modes. And I want to move this to the front of the event construct. So we're going to disconnect the for each loop. We're going to grab this, the for each game modes, and add to the game mode array. We're going to make sure that we connect the select game mode back up over here. So this will only execute on the server. And then we're going to grab this and go all the way to the beginning. So now we are in front of the solo game branch and in front of the server branch. And we want to set it over here. So now all of the clients will also have the array with the game modes. So that's something we need to do. And we also want to make sure that we make an array for all of the team buttons. So we're going to grab all 4 of the team buttons that we created. And let's just move this over a little bit. So let's drag in all 4 of them. And we're going to turn this into an array. So make an array. And make sure that you connect them up in order so that one is index 0, etc. And then we're going to promote this to a variable, and that's going to be all of team buttons. So hook this up to the completed pin, and then hook this back up to the cast to the menu controller. So we have event construct done as well. And then we want to go into the apply selected game mode options function. So let's look for that one. So this actually sets the options on the game instance after the server selected them. So over here we have the new Team Deathmatch enumeration that we need to take care of. So we're simply going to copy some of these settings over here. So let's grab this, copy and paste it. So for Team Deathmatch, we also want to have the number of teams passed on. So first let's make sure that we hook this execution pin back up. And then for the number of teams, we're going to grab our settings number of teams. So we can just copy this stuff, paste it over here and replace the settings box. So look for the settings number of teams and plug this in over here. And that should take care of the Team Deathmatch options. So let's compile and save it. We're going to take care of the team buttons visibility and the AutoAssign checkbox. So let's do that. So we're going to go into the event graph, and for the AutoAssign checkbox, we want to add a onChecked state changed event. So let's go to the checkbox AutoAssign and let's add the event over here. And we simply want to create a boolean. So let's go to the variables, create a new boolean, and I'm going to call this AutoAssign teams. And we simply want to set it. So grab a setter, plug it in and plug the result in. So that should be all we need in here. And then we want to go to the ready button pressed function. So let's open that one up. And we want to make sure that one of the clients press the ready button, they are not able to change the teams anymore. So we're simply going to disable the border for the team buttons. So let's go over here, make a little bit of room, grab the border for the team buttons from the variable. And then we're going to set is enabled. So if the player is ready, we want to disable the border. So plug it in, plug this back in. And if the player is not ready, they can actually change teams. So enable the border and plug it back in over here. So that's good to go as well. Then we want to go into the update player amounts. So open that function, update player amounts. And in here we want to make sure that we add the AutoAssign boolean. So this function actually executes for all of the players, and we want to make sure that all of the players, so all clients, also know the boolean, not only the server. So we're going to grab our isAutoAssign boolean, hook this up over here, and we want to drag it onto the function call so we have the boolean added in there. And with that setup, we want to go into the update game mode function. So let's open that one up, update game mode. And this function also executes for all players, so not only on the server, and we want to make sure that we change this up a little bit so that all of the players actually know the correct game mode index. So for the input over here, we're going to change this to the enumerator of our game modes. So that's our enum game modes. Oh, freaking. There we go. And then we want to drag off here, and we're going to find. So let's find an item in the array, and we want to find our game mode. So, oh freaking really, we need to plug in the eGameModes array over here. There we go. And then we can store the result over here in our game mode index. So now not only the server has the game mode index set, but also all of the clients have the game mode index. And then we can simply grab this enum again and plug it into the string. So we're going to convert it inside of the function over here, and that should work fine. Okay, and with this thing set up, we can go into the player controller, so we can actually change some calls in there. So let's go to framework and then to our menu controller. And in here in the event graph, we actually have a function call to our update game mode. So that's over here. And as you can see, we changed the input over here. So we're going to get rid of this, and we can plug in the enumerator directly over here. And we also want to make sure that we plug this AutoAssign teams boolean into the event, so we can pass that on as well. So we have the new inputs set up over here, and with that setup we can go into the game mode. So let's close this down, go to the menu game mode, and in the menu game mode we have the set selected game mode function. So that should be over here somewhere. Set selected game mode, and in here we also want to make sure that we have our AutoAssign boolean, and we want to make sure that we add the input over here. So we're going to create the variable. That's how we're going to do it. So create a new variable and call this AutoAssign teams. So we want to grab a setter and connect it over here, and we can plug it into the event. So we have this set up as an input as well. And then over here, if we go to the update lobby event, so that's this one. So over here at the end, if we update the game mode, we want to plug in our new boolean. So we're going to grab our AutoAssign boolean, plug it in over here. So this is the event that runs on the menu controller that we edited just a minute ago. So we can compile and save this. And with this setup, we want to go to the set selected game mode event over here. We're going to right click and we're going to find references. And then we're going to click this little binocular over here. And we have two calls in it inside of our lobby menu. So we're going to double click those. And in here, we need to plug in our AutoAssign boolean. So drag it in here, connect it up, and then do the same thing for the other search result. So also plug in the AutoAssign boolean, and that should be good to go as well. Now we want to create a function inside of the lobby menu to set our team buttons visibility. So let's create a new function, and I'm going to call this set team buttons visibility. So let me switch my notes quickly. So in here, first of all, we're going to grab a branch, and we want to know if we have the AutoAssign enabled or not. So we're going to grab our AutoAssign boolean, plug it in, and that should be good. So this function executes for all players, not just for the server, and this will make sure that our team buttons over here will be hidden or shown at the correct moment. So if we have the team deathmatch selected and things like that. So if we have AutoAssign enabled, we don't want to show the team buttons. So we're going to grab our border for the team buttons. drag it in here, and then we're simply going to set the visibility to hidden. Set visibility hidden, plug it into the true pin. So if we do not have AutoAssign enabled, we want to grab our GameMode. So we're going to grab the GameMode's array, and we're going to get an index. So get copy, and we're going to get the GameMode index, and then we can switch on that. So drag off here, switch on GameModes. So if we have endless wave or free for all, we also want to disable the border for the team buttons. And if we have team deathmatch, we want to show them. So in this case, we're going to set the visibility to visible. And then plug in the target. And then we want to make sure that we show the correct amount of buttons. So we're going to grab all of our team buttons from the variables, and we're going to hook up a for each loop. Plug it in over here. So we can simply say if the array index is greater than or equal to the number of teams, so greater than or equal to, and then grab our number of teams integer. And if this is true, then we want to set the visibility to collapsed. So we're going to grab a branch in here and plug in the condition. And then for the array element, we can set the visibility again. And if this is true, we want to set it to collapsed, so it doesn't take up any space as well. And if it's false, then we're going to set the visibility to visible. So that should take care of the team buttons. And we want to add a call to this function, and we're going to do that inside of the update player amounts. So let's go to update player amounts. And let me grab my notes in here. So over here, right after the second branch where we check the actual length, so we're going to add it in here when this is true. So let me double check over here. So let's just hook it up before the branch. That doesn't really matter. And that way we're on the safe side. So I'm not sure if my notes are correct. So we're going to grab our set team buttons visibility, plug it in over here. So make sure that you connect it back up. And that should take care of the visibility. And now we actually want to make sure that we sort all of the player border widgets or player name widgets according to their teams. So we're going to take care of that. So let's create a new function to take care of that, and I'm going to call that update teams. So new function, update teams. And I'm going to add one boolean as an input, and that's isAutoAssign result. So isAutoAssign result. And that's a boolean. So we're going to get back to the boolean later. First of all, we also need local variables. Oh, freak. So we're going to add a local variable, and the first one is going to be the local number of players in lobby. So local number of players in lobby. That's an integer. And let me double check if we need any other locals. We're going to add one for vertical boxes. So we're going to add a new local variable. Local all vertbox teams. So all vertbox teams. And that should be a local variable. So we're going to change the type over here to a vertical box. So simply vertical box, and we're going to turn it into an array. Now the first thing we're going to do is set the number of players in lobby. So drag the integer in here, and we can simply grab one of our variables. So let's grab the all players ready array, and the length of this array is actually the same as the amount of players in our lobby. So we can grab the length and plug it in here. Then we're going to grab the vertical box for the player names. So that's a variable. Vertbox player names, and we're going to clear all of the children. So we're going to start fresh, clear children. So this function will run on all players, not just on the server, and this will make sure that after somebody made a change to a team or a player entered the lobby or something like that, the borders with the player names will update and everything will look correctly. So that's what we're doing in here, just to make sure. So we're going to grab a branch in here, and first of all we want to make sure that the number of teams is actually greater than 1. So we're going to simply drag in our number of teams, and let's do an equal to. So if it's equal to 1, plug it into the condition. So if we only have 1 team, then we can simply add all of the player name widgets to the same vertical box. So we're going to grab all of the player name widget blueprints from the variables and do a for each loop. Plug this one into the true pin. And then we can simply add them to our vertbox player names. So that's the variable we already have, and that's the vertical box that's in the designer by default. So we're going to add a child to vertical box, plug it into the loop body, and the content is the array element. Now things are going to change a little bit if we have teams. So over here we're going to grab a for loop and plug it into the false pin. So not a for each but for. The first index is 0 and the last index is going to be our number of teams -1. So let's grab number of teams, subtract 1. And that's the last index. And then we actually want to make things look a little bit better. So we're going to add a little title for every team that we have that says team 1, team 2 and team 3. So we're going to construct this on the fly. So we're going to go from the loop body, and then we're going to say construct object. Construct object from class. So we want to construct a border first. So let's look for simply a border in here. And then for the return value, we're going to say add child to vertical box, and we're going to add it to our vertical box with player names. So inside of the designer right now we have 1 vertical box where we add all of the player name widgets, and inside of this vertical box we're going to add new vertical boxes for each team. So if we have 2 teams, we're going to add 2 new vertical boxes inside here, and inside those vertical boxes we can add the correct player name widgets. So first we're going to add a border that says which team this is. So let's grab our vertical box player names. And then we're going to say add child to vertical box. So we're going to plug in the border as the content. Then for the border we want to set the brush color. So let's drag off here, set brush color. Freaking really... Okay, there we go. Set brush color. So I'm going to set it to my default brush color, which is simply black and a little bit transparent. So we have alpha 0.7. Then we want to make sure that we add the text for the teams, but only if we do not have AutoAssign enabled. So we're going to grab a branch in here, and we're going to grab our isAutoAssign teams boolean. And we also want to grab an end in here, and then grab the AutoAssign result from the function. So this boolean will be true if the server actually made the teams right before we start the match. And in that case, we want to show our team 1, 2, 3 titles above the teams. And if we have AutoAssign enabled, the players cannot pick on which team they are. So it doesn't really make sense to have the titles there. So first we're going to grab this boolean from the input. So get is AutoAssign result. And we're going to add a not boolean. So flip it around. Plug this into the condition. So if this is false, we actually want to add some titles. So we're going to construct an object from class again. And in this case, we're simply going to construct some text. So look for text. And if we scroll all the way down, so that's a long way down. Let me see, we have text block, and I think, yeah, that's the one we need. So you want to grab text block, the text widget with a little T in front of it. So we're going to create that one. And for this, we're going to drag off here and we're going to set the font. Then we can drag off the font info and we can create a slate font. And we want to make sure that it matches up with the rest of the fonts. So I'm going to set it to my Orbitron and then I'm going to size it down. So because we're going to have quite a few widgets in there, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So let's make it 16. And then that should be good. Then for the text, we also want to set the actual text. So let's drag off the text again and set the text. So not the tooltip text, but the actual text. Plug it in over here and we can format the text. And we simply want to say team, open bracket A, close bracket. And then for the number of the team, we can grab it from the index of the for loop. So we can drag this all the way to the beginning, plug it into the index of the for loop. So it'll say team 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But that's not entirely true because the index starts at 0. So first we're going to add 1 to it. So let's add 1 and then plug it into the format text node. So otherwise we're going to start with team 0. And now we want to grab this return value again, so the text again, and we're going to add this to the border. So we actually need to go over here to the construct border. We're going to drag off the border all the way here and we're going to add a child. And for the content, we're going to plug in the text that we just created. So we're going to add the text to the border. And after we did that, we want to create a new vertical box. So over here, we're going to construct another object from class. And in this case, we're going to construct a vertical box. Vertical box. So we want to go back over here, grab the true pin from the branch, and we're also going to plug it into the construct object from class. So make sure that we hook that one up, otherwise it's not going to work properly. And then for this vertical box, we want to add it to our local variable. So we're going to go to our all vertbox teams, grab it in here, and we're going to set an array element. So the array element is the return value, and for the index, we're going to grab it from the index of the for each loop again, or the for loop. We need to enable size to fit, so make sure that we tick that box, and then we want to add this vertical box to our existing vertical box player names. So we're going to grab that from the variables, drag off here, and we're going to say add child to vertical box, plug it in here, and that will add our team vertical box to our existing vertical box in the designer. So with that stuff set up, we will actually have the lobby look a little bit better in Team Deathmatch, and then we can go all the way here to the completed pin of the for loop, and we actually want to add all of our player widget blueprint names, so player name widget blueprint, and grab a for each loop over here as well. So we want to add those to the correct vertical boxes, so we're going to plug this into the completed pin. And the first thing we want to do is make sure this is an actual player. So we added player name widgets with an empty player to make sure that we have widgets for the correct amount of players. So if we go in here and we check the array index, if that's greater than or equal to the amount of players in the lobby, then this will actually be a vertical or a player name widget that's not belong to an actual player. So we're going to do greater than or equal to, compare this to our local variable amount of players in lobby. So if this is false, this player name widget actually belongs to a real player. So then we're going to grab our team IDs in here. And we actually need to create that variable. Let me double check quickly. Yeah, we're going to simply create it right now. So let's go to variables and we're going to create all team IDs. And that's an array of integers. So we can drag in this array over here, and we're gonna get a copy from it. And we can grab the array index, and this team ID is the actual team number the player is in. So then we're gonna grab our local variable for the vertical box teams. And in here, we're gonna get an index as well. So get a copy, and this index we're gonna get the result from the team ID of the player. And then in this vertical box, we're gonna add the player name widget. So over here, we're gonna say add child to vertical box, plug it into the false bin, and plug the array element in here. So this will add the player name to the correct team. If this is true, then there's actually not a player for this player name widget. So this will just say waiting for player, but we need to add it to the correct vertical boxes as well. So we're going to grab our local vertical box teams. And for this one, we're going to add a for each loop with break. Plug it into the true bin. And we're simply going to count the amount of players that are already in this team. So we're going to drag off here, and we're going to get the children count. Get children count, and then we can compare this to our maximum team size. So if we do greater than or equal to, plug in our maximum team size. So let's grab a branch in here for the loop body. And then if this is false, then we can actually add this player name widget to this team. So if this is true, the team is already full and we need to add it to another team. So if it's false, let's drag off the array element, and we're gonna add it to our vertical box. So the array element is the actual vertical box, I'm sorry. So we're gonna drag off the array element, and we're gonna say add child to vertical box. So if this is false, then we can add it to this team, and we actually want to add the array element from the first for each loop, and that's the player name widget. So after we added it to a team, then we can break the loop because we want to stop executing this loop, and we want to go to the next index of this for each loop to add the next player name widget. So that should update all of the teams. So let's compile and save it. And we actually want to call this function. So we're going to do that inside of the update player amounts again. So let's go inside update player amounts, and we want to add it at the end. So let's drag in our update teams. And over here we have a for each loop with the player name widget blueprints. So let me just double check. Yeah. So we want to add it over here to the completed bin. Then if we go back up a little bit, we also want to hook it up to the false bin of this branch. So we have the all player name widget length compared to the total player count. If this is false, we also want to update the teams. And right in the middle over here for the for loop completed bin, after we update the players ready, we also want to update our teams. So we should have 3 connections over here. One for the for each loop, one for the branch that's right before the for each loop, and then from the update players ready. So there we go, that's how it should look. And then for the AutoAssign result, we can simply leave that false. That's only when the server calls this from the game mode. So this should be good to go. So now we also want to set up our actual team selection to make sure that's working. So we created our team IDs array, and we're going to make sure that we're actually going to use it. So we need to go inside of the lobby menu where we should still be, and we're going to create a new function again, and that's going to be update team IDs. Update team IDs. So we're going to give this a few inputs. So the first one is an array of integers, and that's all of the team IDs. So all team IDs. Then let's turn it into an integer array. And then we're going to add 2 booleans. Is GameMode update? So is GameMode update. Turn it into a single bool again. And we need another boolean, and that's the isAutoAssign result. isAutoAssign result. So that should be good to go. First, we're going to grab our TeamID's variable, and we're simply going to set it. Then we want to grab a branch in here, and we want to check if this is a GameMode update or not. So this will make sense a little bit later. But essentially, if we update the lobby from the game mode, then we can update our actual game mode setting, and that will make sure that the teams will be updated as well. So we're going to add a branch in here to make sure that if this is a game mode update, we do not actually execute things twice. So that's pretty much where this is for. It will probably make a little bit more sense later. So we're going to grab our update teams, and we want to plug it into the false bin over here and pass on our isAutoAssign result. So that's pretty much the entire update team IDs function. And then we want to go to our menu PlayerController. So let's make sure we have this compiled and saved. And inside of the menu PlayerController, we want to create an event that the server can call to update teams. So let's create a new custom event, and let's call this update team IDs. So this will make sure that all of the clients know the correct team IDs from all of the other clients as well. So not just their own team ID. So for this, we want to add the inputs again, and we can do that pretty easy if we simply grab our lobby menu. First, let's make sure that it's valid. And then we can call our update team IDs. So let's drag off here, update team IDs. And we can pass on the inputs. So that will take care of it. For this event, we want to make sure that we set it to replicate run on owning client. And with this event in place, we're going to go inside of our menu game mode. And in here, we also want to set our team IDs. So first, let's make sure that we add the variable for that. So let's create a new one, and that's going to be all team IDs. So that's an array of integers again. And the first thing we want to do in the event graph is make sure that we're going to go to our event on logout. And in here, we are handling our isPlayerReady array and the connected players. And we're going to do the same thing for our team IDs. So make sure that you add it before you remove the connected player, because we're using that find index over here. So we do not want to remove the connected player before we actually use the index. So we're going to grab our all team IDs, and we're going to remove an index. Plug it in between here, and the find result is the index we want to remove. And then we also want to go to our event handle starting new player. So that should be right below here. And we want to add one of the elements in the array. So we have the set array element for the isPlayerReady after the menu controller cast. And in here, we're also going to grab our team IDs, and we're going to add an array element for that as well. So let's copy and paste this, plug it in over here. And then for the array index that actually comes from the add node for the controllers and the item, we're simply going to leave it to 0. So by default, the player will be in the first team if he enters the lobby. And then there's one thing left we need to do in here, and that's create the update team IDs in the update lobby event. So update lobby, we're going to add a new input in here, and that's going to be team IDs. And then we want to make sure that we plug it in between here. First, let's create it. So let's grab a branch, and we're going to plug it into the team IDs. And then if this is true, then we actually want to drag off the for each loop over here. So the for each loop with connected players, we're going to grab this array element, and we're going to update team IDs. So plug this one into the true bin, and then we can grab the team IDs from the variables over here. And then for the is GameMode update, we're actually going to grab this from the update lobby event. So if we're updating the game mode, we're going to use that boolean, plug it in here. And for the AutoAssign result, we can simply grab it from the variables and plug it in as well. Now we want to grab this stuff and we want to add it right after we updated the player names. So, or at least we don't want to add it all the way at the end. That's what I'm trying to say, because we want to make sure that we add it before we update the game mode. So I'm simply going to do it over here. So we have update player names, and then I'm going to grab this stuff, plug it into the branch over here that we just created. So if I want to update the team IDs, then I'm going to execute this and then go back to the branch. And if this is false, then we can simply continue over here to the branch where it was previously connected. So this is looking a little bit messy, but I'm going to take time to clean this up later. The video is going to be long enough probably already. So this is the update lobby event taken care of. And because we changed the update lobby, we want to go over here to the beginning. So we have our event on logout. And if a player logs out, we want to also update our team IDs. So let's enable the boolean over here. And then let me double check quickly. So we want to create an event for the client to call if he changes a team, and then the server is going to check if the client can actually be in that team and then update the lobby. So let's create a new custom event, and I'm going to call this set player team ID. So we're going to give it two inputs. The first one is the PlayerController. So that's our menu controller. And then we also want to add the team ID the player wants to be on. So I'm going to call this the preferred team ID. Preferred team ID. So that's an integer. And we also want to create a function for this. And I'm going to call the function canJoinTeam. So canJoinTeam. And this function, we're going to give it one input, that's an integer, and we're also giving it an output, and that's a boolean. So the input is the team ID, and then the output is going to be canJoin, and that's a boolean. And what we want to do basically is check if the team is full or not. So we're going to grab all of the team IDs over here, and we're going to grab a for each loop. And we're going to add a local variable, and that's the player count. So create a new local variable, local player count. Then we want to drag off the array element and compare it to the team ID. And then if this is true, then we're going to increment the player count. So we're simply counting the amount of players that are already in the team that this player wants to be on. So let's grab the player count and let's increment it. Oh, that's an array, and we don't want it to be an array. So this actually needs to be a single variable, and then we can increment it. Plug it into the true pin. And then if this is completed, we can simply compare it to the maximum team size. So grab the local player count, and if this is less than our maximum team size, then we can be in this team. So plug it into the condition, and then I'm simply going to use two return nodes. So plug them in over here. If this is true, then we can join the team. If this is false, we cannot join this team. So let's compile, save, go back to the event graph, and let's first add a call to this function. So canJoinTeam, plug it in over here, plug in the team ID as the preferred team ID. Then we can grab a branch over here and plug this in as the condition. So if this is true, then we can simply grab all of the team IDs, that's the array, and we're going to set an array element. Then we want to make sure that we set it for the correct player. So we're going to grab all of our connected players and we're going to find the correct player controller. So find item, and plug in the player controller over here. And the result is the actual index from the array. So plug this into the true pin. And the item is the preferred team ID from the event. So that's the team the player wants to be on and is on in this case. And after we changed all of that stuff, we want to call our update lobby event. And we want to update our team IDs. So make sure we enable the bool over here. So with this event in place, we can go into our player controller and make sure that we use it. So let's go into the menu controller. And over here, we want to create another replicated event. So let's create a custom event, and that's going to be server set team ID. So this is going to be called from a client who's in the lobby widget, and he wants to change his team. So over here, we want to add the preferred team ID. Well, we can do it. Let's just grab the event over here. We're going to say replicate to run on server. So if we are the server, we can get our game mode. So let's right click, get game mode. And we want to cast it to our menu game mode. And then we can call our function that we just created, or event, sorry, and that's the set player team ID. And make sure that we pass on the preferred team ID to the event, and the player controller is a reference to our self, so we can simply look for self and plug it in. So replicate it to run on server, that's good to go. And since we're already in the menu controller, we want to make sure that we go to the beginning. So over here we have server update lobby. This will be called whenever one of the players enters the lobby. So we want to update the team IDs here as well. So there's only one call to the update lobby event in here, I think. Yeah, so you can't miss. If you actually enable it on the update lobby call, you should be good to go. So with all of this stuff set up, we want to go back into our lobby menu. So let's make sure we have this compiled and the game mode is compiled as well. So inside the lobby menu, we want to add on-clicked events for the team buttons. So let's go to all 4 of our team buttons. And let's add on-clicked events. So button team 1, team 2, team 3, and team 4. And we want to go to our menu controller to call our server set team ID. So what we can do is get our owning player, and that's the player controller. So from here we can cast to our menu controller, and then on the menu controller we can call our server set team ID. So server set team ID, and we can simply well, we don't need to make a literal integer. We can simply type in the number here. So that should be all. And then we can copy and paste it over here and make sure that we change the integer to team 1 and do the same thing for the other teams. And I'm screwing up because the first team, no, I'm not screwing up. So we're actually going to keep the index equal to the array index. So it's going to say team 1 on the screen, but it's actually team 0 in the array. So that's good to go. So make sure that for all 4 of the events, and then we have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's the team buttons on clicked events. And then we want to go inside of our menu game mode again, and we want to change some stuff in there. So right now we want to go into our menu game mode, and in here we have the set selected game mode event, and we're going to change this up quite a bit. So for example, if we have team deathmatch selected and we're going to switch it back to free for all, we need to make sure that we change the lobby again, so the player widgets and things like that and the team IDs and everything is not going to be messed up. And we also have the case if we want to set the number of teams or number of players to a lower amount than the actual amount of players in the lobby. So if that happens, I'm simply not going to change the settings. You could choose to kick players or do other things, but I'm not going to make it that complicated. But I'm going to make sure that we have these exceptions taken care of. So let's just disconnect everything and we're going to rebuild it. So first of all, we're going to set our selected game mode. So we can simply plug this in. Then we want to grab a branch, and the first thing we're going to do is check if we actually changed the AutoAssign boolean. So let's drag off the input from the AutoAssigns and we're going to compare it. So if we set the new setting to true, and then we're going to drag the AutoAssign boolean from the game mode and compare it. And if it used to be false, so if we actually changed it, so let's grab an AND node in here. Connect both of these up and then connect them to the condition. So this one should be compared to true and this one should be compared to false. Then we actually enabled AutoAssign. So we're going to grab all of our team IDs and simply grab a for each loop. So we're going to set all of them to 0. So we can drag off the array again and we can set an array element, plug it in over here. So the index is the array index, and then the new item is simply going to be 0. So all players will be in team 0 if we enable AutoAssign. Then we want to set the actual AutoAssign boolean. So let's grab it and we're going to connect it up to the completed pin and also to the false pin of this branch over here. And make sure that we plug it into the input from the event. So there we go. Then we want to switch on the game mode. So let's drag off the selected game mode and we're going to go over here and look for the switch. Make sure we connect it up to the boolean setter. And let's do endless wave first. So if we have the endless wave game mode, then we can simply set the number of teams and the maximum team size, and that should be all. So let's grab number of teams and maximum team size. And then plug it in over here. And we can grab those from the inputs over here. So number of teams, maximum team size. For free-for-all, we're going to grab a branch first. And we're going to check the length of all connected players. So let's grab all connected players and let's grab the length of the array. And then we're also going to drag off the input for the maximum team size. So the team size, not the number of teams. And we want to know if this is smaller than. So let's do less. And then plug in the length. So if we have too many players in the lobby, basically. So we're going to plug this into the condition. So if this is true, then we're not going to change the actual amounts. So we're not going to do anything. So we're dragging off here and then calling our update lobby event. And for the update lobby, we want to update the game mode. So let's make sure we enable the game mode boolean. And we also want to plug this into the endless wave branch over here. So if this is false, then we can grab the setters for the number of teams and the maximum team size and plug them in. And make sure that we grab them from the inputs again. So we have the maximum team size and the number of teams. And then we can go to our update lobby event again. And then for Team Deathmatch, we also want to grab a branch. And we also want to grab the length of the connected players array. But in this case, we want to multiply the number of teams with the team size. So we're going to grab these inputs and we're going to multiply them. So that's the amount of players that can be in the lobby. And again, we can do less than. So less, and plug in the length of the PlayerController array. Plug this into the condition. So if this is true, then we can actually not change it because we have too many players in the lobby. So we're simply going to connect it to our update lobby call. And if this is false, we're going to grab the setters again, plug them in over here. And simply grab the inputs. So the number of teams, that's the lower one. plug it in here, and the top one is the maximum team size. And if we do this, then we also want to check the actual team IDs, because we might have changed it from a 3-team to a 2-team game. And in that case, we want to make sure that all of the players that had team 3 selected will then be moved to another team. So to do that, we're going to create a new function, and we're going to call that check team IDs. And for the function, we're going to give it one output, and that's IDs override. And that's a boolean, so that's good to go. Let's get rid of this for now. No, that will get rid of the output. Let's just move it to the side. So this is going to be a pretty confusing function. First, we're going to grab all of our team IDs, and we're going to grab a for each loop. So we're going to loop through them. And the first thing we're going to check if a player is in a team that got removed. So we can grab the array element, and we can do is greater than or equal to, and then simply plug in the number of teams. So if this is true, then the player is in a team that's not actually here anymore. So he's in team 3 and we changed it to a 2-team game, for example. So then we want to grab some local variables to make sure that we can change the actual team of the player. So we're going to create the local team to check. Then we're also going to create the local players in this team. So both of those are integers. Then we're going to create a boolean for the IDs override. So let's drag off here and create a variable. Oh no, we're going to create a local variable. So let's get rid of this one. Promote to local variable, and that's local IDs override. And we need one more variable, and that's an array of integers, and that's going to be the local team counts. So integer and turn it into an array. Okay, with the variable set up, first we're going to drag in the team to check over here, and we're going to simply set it to team 0. Then we're going to grab the players in this team, so that's the count, and we're going to set it to 0 as well. So the player was in a team that got removed, and we're simply going to go through all of the teams, count how many players are in that team, and if the team is not full, we're going to add the player to that team. So we can grab all of the team IDs again, and we can grab a for each loop, plug it in over here. So we're going to count the amount of players in this team. So let's drag off the array element, and we're going to compare it to the team to check. So is equal to team to check. If this is true, then we can increment our local variable. So plug it in here. If this is true, we're going to grab the local players in this team and increment it. There we go. Then if this for each loop is completed, we want to grab a branch, and we want to grab our local players in this team, and we want to know if this is less than our maximum team size. So let's grab less and plug in maximum team size from the normal variables. Plug it in here. So if this is true, then we can actually add the player to this team. So we can grab all of the team IDs and set an array element. Plug this one into the true pin. And then we want to make sure that we grab in the team to check. And that's going to be the item. So that's the new team that the player is going to be in. And then for the index, that comes from the first for each loop. So let's grab the index over here, plug it into the first for each loop, array index. So that's the actual index of the team ID in the team IDs array. Okay, if this is false, we cannot add the player to this team. The team is already full, so we want to check another team. So we're going to grab our team to check, and we're going to increment this integer. Plug it into the false bin. And then we want to we want to make sure that we do not exceed the actual amount of teams, obviously. So we're going to grab a branch in here, and we're going to compare our team to check with the number of teams. So let's grab in the team to check and do equal then. So if this is equal to our number of team setting, then we cannot continue because we do not have that many teams. And if this is false, we're going to go all the way back to the second for each loop, and then we're going to plug it into the setter for the players in this team. So we're going to reset this one to 0. We're not going to reset the team to check to 0 because we just incremented that int. So we want to leave that one alone, but we do want to reset the players in this team count. So you want to plug it back in there. That's good to go. We do want to make sure that if over here we actually overwrite the player's team ID, so then we're going to grab our boolean and make sure that we set it to true over here, so we know we actually changed something. Okay, so if this for each loop is done, then we know we do not have players in teams that do not exist anymore. Then we're going to count the amount of players in all of the teams. And we're going to make sure that there's not too many players in a team. So let's grab all of the team IDs and we're going to do a for each loop again. So hook this one up to the completed pin of the very first for each loop. And then we're simply going to count all of the players in all of the teams. So we're going to grab our local team counts and we're going to set an array element. Plug it into the loop body. So the index is going to be the array element. And then for the item, that's going to be the array element. And we actually want to get our team counts. So we're going to get the current value that's in the array right now. Local team counts, get index, and we're going to get the array element index and add 1 to it. So let's add 1. And that's going to be the new item in the array. So over here we have an array with 0, 1, 2, 3 if we have 4 teams, for example, and this will simply hold all of the counts with the players for those teams. So we want to make sure we enable size to fit in here. So after we set up that array, then we need to make sure that there's not actually too many players in there. So we're going to grab a for each loop again, and we're going to loop through all of our team counts. So the first thing we want to do is check the array element and see if it's greater than the maximum team size. So that's the actual amount of players in this team. Let's do greater than and compare it to our maximum team size. So we need a branch to hook it up to the loop body. So if this is true, then we actually need to move players from this team again. So what we can do is simply grab all of the stuff that we did above here and we can paste it. So let's just grab all of this over here and also our team to check, by the way. So after the branch for the number of teams, we're simply going to grab everything, copy, and then paste it down here. So we want to hook this up to the true pin. So if the amount of players in this team is greater than our maximum team size, we're going to look for another team to add this player to. So if we did that, then over here, after we set our IDs override, we want to make sure that we change the local team counts. So we're going to grab our team counts array. And over here, we're going to set an array element. So hook it up to the IDs override. And then we can simply grab it from the first for each loop. So we have the for each loop with the team counts. And over here, we're going to grab our array index. And we actually want to get a copy from that array index from our team counts array again. So I'm kind of messing this up. So get the team counts array, get a copy, and then plug in the index from the very first local team counts array. For each loop, local team counts array index, that goes in here. And we simply want to subtract 1. So subtract, we simply removed 1 player from this team, and we need to update the team counts to make sure it matches again. So this is going to be the item. And the index is the same array index as the index we use here. So we can simply plug it in. So we shouldn't need size to fit because this index already existed. And then we want to hook it back up to our beginning of the loop. So we're going to grab this and we're going to go to the beginning, to the branch where it says the array element is greater than our maximum team size. So that's the local team counts array. So we need to plug this in over here. Let's make sure it looks a little bit cleaner. So just to clarify, we have 2 of the for each loops with the local IDs override, and I only added it to the last one, obviously, where we are messing with the team counts. So for the first one, you do not need to change anything in there. Okay, so that should be good to go. This loops back to the beginning over here, so that should work. So I think we have the function done over here. Let's see, we probably need to hook this up. So we have the set array element if we actually move a player to another team. And then we want to grab the correct team index. So we're going to grab a TeamIDs array. And in that array, we're going to find an item. And we actually want to find the array index from the local team counts array. And we can use the result from this find node to plug in the index for the set array element. So that's the new team we're going to add the player to. And let's make sure that we have size to fit enabled over here, just to be safe. And we probably want to do that over here as well. So all team IDs, let's just enable size to fit right before the IDs override. It doesn't hurt, so let's make sure we do that. And then this function should be good to go. So then we can go to the completed pin of the local team counts for each loop. And we're going to add a return node over here. So return node. And over here we want to plug in our IDs override boolean. So we know if we changed something. Okay, so let's get rid of this one. With this stuff in place, we can compile save. Go back to the event graph, and then we're going to call this function. So check team IDs, plug it in over here. And the result of this boolean, we're simply going to plug it into the team IDs update lobby boolean. Then make sure that we hook this up to the update lobby event. Well, and that should make everything work. Double check. Yes, that should be good to go. So we have that function out of the way as well. So now we need to make sure that we actually have our AutoAssign working, and we are also going to make sure that our players load in the map with the team IDs. So we're close, but we're not quite there yet. So inside of our game mode, we're going to make a function for the server to be able to create teams if we have the AutoAssign enabled. So let's create a new function and call that make teams. And we're going to grab all of our player profiles in here. So let's grab those first. We're going to grab a for each loop. And we simply want to know the level of each player, and we're going to store that inside of a local variable. So let's call that local player levels. And that's an array of integers. And then we also need a local index with maximum value. So local index with max value. So that's a single integer. And we also want to add player to team. So let's create local add player to team. And again, that's a single integer. So for the player profiles, we're going to drag off the array element and we're going to break the player profile. And we're simply going to grab the player level and store that inside of the array. So let's grab the array, set an array element, plug it in over here. The array index comes from the for each loop, and then the item is the player level. So enable size to fit over here, and then we have all of the player levels stored. Then we're going to grab the local player levels array, drag off here, and we're going to look for a max of int array. So what this will do, it will return the actual index with the highest value inside of this array. So we're going to grab our index with max value, connect it up to the completed pin, and connect it to the index of maximum value. Then we do want to make sure that the maximum value is not actually 0. So we're going to drag off here and do not equal to 0, and grab a branch in here, connect it up. So if a player starts a new profile, the profile will actually have the player level set to 1. So technically this could never be 0. So we're going to use that. So if this is true, then we're going to make sure that we add this player to a team. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide all of the players with the highest ranks among the teams. So we're going to have a somewhat fair setup. So we're going to grab all of our team IDs and we're going to set an array element. Let's hook this up to the true pin. So we actually want to add the player to team. So local add player to team. And we're going to plug that into the item. And then we're going to grab all of the local player levels. And for this, we're also going to set an array element. Plug it in over here as well. So the index with maximum value is going to be the index in this array. And then for the local player levels, we're actually going to set it to 0. So the next time we're going to check in here, it will not be accounted again. So we're only going to add this player once. So that's what we're doing over here. And then for the player to add to team, we can simply grab that over here and we can increment it. Plug it in, and then we want to make sure that we do not exceed the actual amount of teams that we have. So we're going to grab a branch and then compare the add player to team with the number of teams. So let's just plug it in here with an equal to. So if this is equal to the number of teams that we have set up, then we're going to reset it to 0. So then we're going to grab add player to team, plug it into the true pin, set it to 0. And then we're simply going to loop to the beginning. So we're going to grab the next index in the array with the highest value, and we're going to add that to the next team because we incremented the integer. And if this is false, then we also want to go back to the beginning and add the player to a team. So this should work. We're simply grabbing the highest value from the array, adding it to team 0, for example. Make sure that we reset the level so we do not actually add this player again. Then we're incrementing the team we're adding the player to. So the next time we're going through this loop, we're adding it to the next team. And we're making sure that we do not exceed our number of teams. So if we loop through all of the team IDs in this way, then we should have them added correctly. And then we can simply grab this false pin and return over here. So in this case, we are done. Okay, I'm going to skip the return node. There we go. So with this function in place, we can go to our lobby menu and make some changes in here. So let's go to the event graph, and over here for the button start game, we want to make some changes. So let's go to our button start game and to the onClicked event. So we have a bit of stuff set up and we need a bit of room as well. So I'm just going to grab the entire function and move it to an empty spot. There we go. So let's run through it. So we're having a cast to the game instance. We have the branch for the solo game. And then over here, we have a cast to the menu game mode. So that's where we want to be right now. So let's go over here, move this to the side a little. And let's just disconnect this stuff. So we're going to connect this back up right at the end later. So let's move it out of the way. So if we start the game, we actually want to make sure that we send some messages to our text box, and we're making the teams if we have AutoAssign enabled and stuff like that. So we're going to take care of this over here. And as you can see, we have the server check in here. So if this is true on this branch, we are actually on the server. So first we're going to drag off the game mode and we're going to send a chat message. So send chat message. And in here, I'm simply going to say host starting match. So let's do host starting match. Then we want to grab a branch. And we're going to compare our game mode. So let's grab our game modes array. Over here, eGameMode. And we're going to get a copy. And we can plug in our game mode index. So let's compare this. We want to know if this is Team Deathmatch. So we're going to do equal enum, and we can simply select Team Deathmatch over here. And we also want to know if we have AutoAssign enabled. So we're going to grab our AutoAssign boolean and then drag off here, do end. And this will be the condition. So if we have Team Deathmatch with AutoAssign enabled, if that's the case, we want the server to make teams. So we're going to grab our game mode, drag off here, and we're going to make teams. So this goes into the true bin. There we go. Then we're also going to drag off the game mode again, and we're going to set our isAutoAssign result boolean to true. And we might not have that. So we have the AutoAssign teams, but not the result. So let's go to the game mode and let's create the boolean because we do need that. So over here, menu game mode, we have AutoAssign teams. So that's simply if the option is enabled or not. And we also want to create another boolean, and that's called isAutoAssign result. So this will be enabled if we're starting the match and the server actually made the teams and is spreading that information to the clients. So isAutoAssign result, compile it, save it. So back in the lobby menu, we can now drag off the game mode and we can set it. So set isAutoAssign result, plug it over here and set it to true. And then we want to call our update lobby. So we can drag off the game mode again. And over here we can update the lobby. Hook it up. And in this case we want to update the team IDs because we had the server change the teams. And then we can set our match start delay. So if this is Team Deathmatch, I'm going to give it a little bit longer delay because the players can then take a look at the result of the AutoAssign to see in which team they are on and things like that. So I'm going to create a boolean I'm going to create a variable, and that's going to be the match start delay. That's a float, not a boolean, and that's going to be a single. So we can set it to 10 seconds, for example. There we go. Then we can copy and paste this. So if it's not Team Deathmatch, I'm going to make the delay a little bit shorter. I'm going to make it 5 seconds. Hook this up to the false of the branch over here. And then we can simply send the chat messages for the countdown. So let's drag off the game mode again over here. And we're going to send a chat message. So we want to hook both of the execution pins up here. And then we can say, let's format a text. So I'm gonna say host, and then simply the seconds left. So open bracket A, close bracket. And we can grab the match start delay and do a toText. So we want to do toText for a double. And in here, I'm going to say maximum fractional digits are going to be 0. And I'm not going to use grouping. That's the text for the A pin. And that should be good. So then we want to wait for 1 second. And we want to grab our match start delay and decrement the float. So subtract 1. So we need to check if we actually reach the end of the countdown. So we're going to grab a branch and we're going to compare our match start delay. So if this is greater than 0, then we want to continue looping. So if this is true, then we're going to loop through the send chat message. So we're going to add the countdown for the next second. And if this is false, we reached the end of the countdown and then we can start the match. So then we can grab the stuff that we disconnected at the beginning and make sure that we plug in the for each loop to the false pin. And all of the connected players come from the game mode. So we can grab this pin over here and make sure that we hook up all of the connected players again. So this will start the match if the countdown is done. So let's compile and save it. So with this thing set up, we can create a new event in here. So I want to make sure that if the server started the match or actually started the countdown, then the lobbies will be disabled for all players. So they can't change things anymore. So I'm going to create a new function and call this disable lobby. And this is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to drag in a bunch of different stuff. So first of all, we're going to grab our border for the team buttons. Then we're going to grab the button for the game mode next and game mode previous. Then we need the button game mode options. So we cannot actually change options anymore. Then we're also going to grab the button for the character menu and the loadout menu. So loadout menu and button character menu. And we need the button to go back to the main menu and the start game button. So let's go button main menu and button start game. So we're simply going to disable all of these. So set enabled. And plug everything in. There we go. Okay, with this in place, we're going to go into our menu controller and we need to create some events to take care of this stuff. So let's go to an empty spot. First, we're going to create a custom event that the server can call to disable the lobby. So we're going to say disable lobby menu. So this is replicated to run on the owning client. And then we can simply grab our lobby menu and make sure that it's valid. And then call our disable lobby function we just created. So hook it up to the isValid pin. And then we also need an event a little bit later for the clients to save their actual team ID. So we're going to create a custom event and we're going to call this save team ID. So again, we want to make sure that we set it to run on the owning client. And for this, let's create a new function. And we can copy something like save selected model, for example. Let's duplicate this one. And we're going to call this save team DeathMatch team ID. So in here, let's go to the set members in player profile. And over here, we actually want to expose our team ID. So let's make sure we have that one exposed. We're going to add that one as an input and get rid of the model name. So we're changing the team ID. We have the isValid check for the save game, so that should be good to go. Then we're saving the game to slot. That's good as well. The only thing we do not need to do is update our selected character, so let's get rid of that. And then hook it back up, so that should be good as well. So we're gonna go back to the event graph, and then we want to make sure that we call this event. So we're gonna call save team deathmatch team ID and pass on the team ID to the event. Compile and save this. And now we need to go into the menu game mode, and we're going to create two functions so we can transfer the team IDs to the players, and we have a call to disable all the lobbies. So let's go to the, well, we don't need to go to the event graph. Let's create a new function. So the first one is going to be transfer team IDs. So this will make sure that all of the players will have the correct team ID saved on their player save game. So for example, if we had the AutoAssign option, then only the server knows the correct team IDs and we need to spread them to all of the players. So we're simply going to grab all of the connected player controllers, grab a for each loop. And over here we can grab all of our team IDs and get a copy. We're going to get a copy from the array index, and then for the array element we can drag off here and call our save team ID. So that's the normal save team ID, that's the replicated event and not the function that we created. So the replicated event, plug it into the loop body and plug in the team ID. So that will make sure it's saved on the player's local save game. And then we're going to create disable all lobbies. So let's create a new function, disable all lobbies. And in here again, we're going to grab all of the connected player controllers and simply grab a for each loop. So we can call our disable lobby event on that controller. So disable LobbyMenu and plug it in. And that's good to go as well. So with these events in place, all we need to do is go back to our lobby menu. And in here for the event graph. So for the start game event that we just created, we're going to change it up a tiny bit, not too much. So I'm switching my notes quickly. Go. So over here, after we started the game and we sent the chat message for the start game, I'm simply gonna disable all the lobbies so I can drag off the game mode and call the new event we just created. I think I probably misspelled that or something. Disable all lobbies, there we go. So we can hook that up in between here. And then the last thing we want to do is go over here after the match start delay. And we're going to grab the game modes array. So we can check what game mode we are currently on. So we're going to get a copy of our game mode index. And if we currently have our team deathmatch selected, so let's drag off here and do equal enum. If this is team deathmatch, then we're going to grab a branch. So make sure that we connect the two setters for the start delay and do not move the actual loop over here. So do not move all 3 pins, but only these two. So this will be the condition. And if this is true, then we want to transfer the team IDs. So we can drag off the game mode again and we can call our transfer team IDs. Make sure we hook this up to the group in and then back to the send get text message, and the false pin goes directly back into here. Okay, so I think we finally have everything set up. There's a bit of an unfortunate thing, we can't really test it yet because we also need player starts in the level and we need to set up functions and stuff for that. So I just need to call it right here. It's getting way too long. We're gonna end this in the next video, so we can have a small test to see if our lobby is set up properly, but we can't really test our team deathmatch in game yet. And also one small note I would like to make. So we actually made our lobby available for a lot more players right now. So we do not have a maximum of 4 players, but you do want to make sure that if you actually want your game to work with more players, that you add the Playerstarts in the level. So in the actual level, the player start for the player. And you also want to add the LobbyPlayerSpots for the correct amount of players. So we have our gameplay folder, lobby, and then the lobby character and lobby player spot. So you want to add the correct amount of lobby player spots to the lobby to make sure you can actually have that many players in your lobby. Okay, so let's run a little test, and that's going to be all for today. So I started a multiplayer game, created new profiles because we deleted the save game. And we're inside of the lobby, so let's make it team deathmatch, and immediately you can see our lobby changes. So we have a bit of a room issue, but that's not really something to worry about right now. So we have 4 teams with 5 players. That seems to be working. We have the team names 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can select a different team, and that seems to be working as well. So that's all good. Now, if the server goes into the game mode options, he can set the number of teams. So let's lower that to 3, for example. And then the team size, let's make it smaller as well. So let's make it 3 as well. So we need to change the colors in here, but that's not really a big deal. So let's accept, and the lobby changes, and all of the players are still in the correct spots. So we can change where we want to be, and that's good to go. So I think most of that stuff seems to be working. Now we can go into the game mode options and enable AutoAssign. So that will get rid of the team buttons, and it will get rid of the team names for now. So that's good as well. And then let's make sure that everybody readies up. So what we could do, if we disable AutoAssign, we could double check if readying up disable the team buttons. It does, so that's good to go as well. Then let's go back to AutoAssign and let's start the match to see if the countdown and the AutoAssign is working. So let's ready up and let's start the game. So we have the countdown, and the server made the teams, and we have the team names, so we can see in which team we are, and that's working as well. So I think we have everything working in the first run, and there's no fixes. So there's an issue, we're not going to spawn in because we do not have player spawns and things like that set up, but we have our lobby done. So it was quite a bit of a struggle in the terms that it was a long video. I still hope you enjoyed it. If you think it's too long, just pause it and come back the next day. And if you want to get your hands on the project file, you can become a member of the YouTube channel or become a member on my Ko-fi page. You will then get access to premium channels in the Discord where you will be able to download this project. Okay, so thanks for watching everybody, and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later. Bye bye.